I bring greetings from a younger sister institution, the University of the South at Sewanee. I say younger because by the time of the laying of the cornerstone at Sewanee in October of 1860, Transylvania was probably, without dispute, the best known and most prestigious academic institution west of the Appalachians. In aspiring to a similar stature, the bishops who founded Sewanee and envisioned a great national Episcopal university, one that could serve the country by serving the region, in the same way that at Transylvania we see an institution serving the region and by extension serving the country. They had $500,000 and 10,000 acres to support that claim, but unlike Transylvania, launching this new venture as they did in October of 1860, they also had remarkably bad timing. The war that would soon enough come treated both Transylvania, serving region by serving country, and Sewanee, which envisioned the service of country through the service of region, harshly. At the beginning of that war's sesquicentennial, we can now say that is so, and we can also say that our aspirations on this day remain true to those of our respective founders. The difference is one that comes from knowledge and experience. The knowledge of what it means to live on borders between both East and West, as well as North and South, and from experience, the experience that comes from knowing what it means to live in a fallen world. And it's that subject, borders, that also brings us here today and prompts me to begin these remarks with one of those questions that may seem merely one of the sort of parlor games that historians like to play, but that in fact is a question that can make us think anew about who we are as institutions, as Southern institutions, and what that dark and bloody and great and necessary test of nationhood and a simple proposition on which that nationhood rested could, in Lincoln's words, long endure. And so let us for a moment think about section and nation and border and experience and knowledge, and perhaps above all, the ability of great institutions through it all to survive and eventually, and once more, to prosper. To this day, the memory remains vivid. Qualifying exams for the PhD degree, arrayed around the table of 4 distinguished historians and one more than slightly nervous graduate student, me. The title of Alan Nevins's multi-volume study of the Civil War era springs to mind. The ordeal of the Union is about to begin. And one thinks of the subtitles of those volumes as perhaps a description of what is about to begin, the improvised war, perhaps ultimately leading to an organized one. Now, almost 40 years later, the first question asked in that setting still puzzles, still challenges, still compels. Mr. McCardell, my first questioner asked, do tell us, if you were writing a history of the South, where would you begin? That first question, that fundamental question, that never satisfyingly answerable question frames my brief remarks today. And it's a great question, actually. And I've shamelessly and selfishly used it as an opening gambit in many of my own classes in the years since. What makes it a great question, of course, is that no matter how one answers it, there's always some other possibility, some critical exception, some perhaps more convincing way to respond. Think of the possible answers: 1607, 1619, 1776, 1789, 1798-99, 1820, 1828, 1850, 1854, 1861. Plausible answers all, with arguments that could be framed to support them. However you answer that question reveals basic and not entirely flawless assumptions. And so here we are at the start of the Civil War sesquicentennial, charged to address the topic of the border states. Now there is a great complication to the fundamental question just posed. Border states. Border states, bordering what? Located where? Sharing a common set of defining characteristics, or perhaps not. When we speak of border states, we don't mean those free states bordering slave states. We mean those slave states bordering what? Well, bordering both slave states to the south and free states to the north, except as late as April of 1861, Virginia, North Carolina, Tennessee, Arkansas were also thought of as border states and slave states still in the Union. Though after Lincoln's call for volunteers in April of 1861 to put down the Southern Rebellion, those 4 states joined the Southern Confederacy and ceased being border states.